Hi, I'm Pradeep. Today I'm going to talk about our paper, which is No Reservations. A first look at Amazon Reserved Instance Marketplace. Popular IaaS cloud providers offer same type of VMs over different contract terms. These contract terms vary across price and they pose different risks to end users. On-demand VM type is most popular VM type where users can purchase them at any time and are billed for the time they are used. But on-demand VMs suffer from rejection risk, where on-demand requests for on-demand VMs can be rejected if cloud providers are out of capacity. While reserved VMs are significantly cheaper than on-demand while providing fulfillment guarantee, they require long-term contract and pose demand risk to end users as well, which we'll talk in the next slide. Finally, spot VMs. These are byproduct of selling idle capacity by cloud providers where they are significantly cheaper than on-demand, but they pose both rejection risk as well as revocation risk, where revocation risk means they can be revoked at any time by cloud provider. As we know that reserved instances are significantly cheaper than on-demand, but this is true if and only if they are highly utilized, and this is a function of how accurately one can forecast their demand over long periods. And doing this is challenging as unforeseen events like COVID-19 can significantly change how the compute capacity is required. For example, for companies like streaming companies like Netflix, Hulu, during this quarantine period, the compute capacity demand has increased so much that they have to buy more. But in the case of companies like Uber, Lyft, there is little to no user traffic in their user applications. Hence, reserved VMs expose users to substantial demand risk due to the gap between forecasted and actual demand. To mitigate this demand risk, Amazon operates a reserved instance marketplace. A reserved instance marketplace is a unified marketplace where both Amazon's first party offerings as well as third party, that is users reserved instances, are also sold. In reserved instance marketplace, a user can sell their reserved instances with at least 1 month term duration left at a price that they can set. Once a user lists their reserved VMs and Amazon lists them, EC2 then posts them on reserved instance marketplace as shown in the figure. Here, user listing is shown as a third party, and then AWS, which is their first party, are shown as AWS. Given that AWS offers only 1 year or 3 year reservations on the market, reserved instance marketplace is an interesting and interactive proposition as it enables users to purchase variable and shorter term reservations as well. Many people have known another marketplace that Amazon offers, which is spot market, and there has been a lot of research done on the spot market in the past. But reserved instance marketplace is relatively unknown, and with reserved instances being used in big enterprises a lot, this makes reserved instance marketplace really interesting and a truly competitive marketplace with multiple buyers and sellers as well. In contrast, EC2 spot market has only a single seller, that is Amazon, and it's not a true market as the spot prices are not set based on some instantaneous supply and demand, but instead based on some internal algorithm. In comparison, RIM can be thought of as a housing market with many unique listings, where each of those listings are defined by a large set of attributes. For example, in the case of VMs, it is VM types, number of instances listed, term duration, supply and demand. These all affect the price of a listing. Contrarily, a spot market can be thought of as a stock market where many identical assets, example VMs, are priced uniformly across multiple regions and availability zones. Continuing the differences between reserved instance marketplace and spot. In the case of spot, EC2 automatically archives last 3 months of data and provides them to the users to allow them to make an informed decision about using their spot instances. But in the case of reserved instance marketplace prices, EC2 doesn't automatically archive them, and this clearly limits the usefulness of reserved instance marketplace as user lack data to reason about how to use this marketplace and how it works as well. To address this, we started monitoring and archiving reserved instance prices in 2018 September, where we query reserved instance marketplace using EC2 APIs for every 30 minutes, where we collect data for all VM types for across 22 regions. To encourage research on reserved instance marketplace, we have publicly released our dataset at UMass Trace Repository. Please visit this website. Further, we have analyzed our marketplace data for last 1.8 years to reveal important market characteristics and identify potential opportunities for reserve VM optimizations in terms of cost as well. In terms of our analysis course, first we look at market volume across multiple regions, then we zoom in onto the most popular region and we look at what are the popular VM types. Afterwards, we look at how the term duration affects both in terms of listing volume as well as the individual listing price of each VM type as well. Then we look at how the supply and demand are relatable in the reserved instance marketplace. And finally, we compare reserved instance marketplace prices to on-demand and spot prices as well. First, let's look at how the market volume varies across multiple regions for the last 1.8 years. For this, we have on the x-axis regions where we plot top 10 popular regions because of the space issues. And on the left y-axis, we have average market value in terms of instances listed. On the right y-axis, we have average market volume in terms of number of ECUs listed. Clearly, we can see that US East 1 and US West 2 are by far most popular and big regions. And another interesting thing here is that US East 1, which is most popular, US East 2, which is third most popular, the market volume, the difference is huge. For the lower market, something like SA East 1 and AP South East 1, they pose some risk to users who wants to buy shorter and variable term RIs, as they can't fulfill such requests at any time. Moving on, let's look at what are the popular VM types in US East 1, which is most popular region. Similar to last graph, we have on the y-axis average market volume both in terms of instance listed and on the ECUs listed, and on the x-axis we have instant type where we rank the instances in the descending order of their popularity. As you can see here, C4.large is by far most dominant and most popular VM type in reserved instance marketplace for third-party listings, followed by C5.large. Incidentally, both of these VM types are from compute optimized family, and both of which are smallest VMs in their respect to C4 and C5 family as well. C4.large is the smallest VM in the C4 family, which is the last generation of compute optimized VM offerings. This may indicate that C4.large was one of the most popular reserved instance type in the previous generation. Given that reserved instance marketplace third-party offerings are reserved instances purchased sometime before they are listed, this does indicate that RAM is lagging indicator of reserved instances type popularity. Next, let's look at how listing volume is affected by term duration, where the term duration means how much term is left on third-party offerings. On the x-axis, you have duration. On the y-axis, you have instance listed. On the right y-axis, you have number of ECUs listed. These are not average metrics. And this graph is for US East 1 data. Clearly, we can see that 7 to 12 months duration have very few instances listed compared to shorter term, which is 1 to 6, and then long term, which is 13 to 36 months as well. This might be because 10 to 12 months is very close to 1 year, for which Amazon themselves offer their first party offerings, and people who buy these first party offerings from Amazon wouldn't immediately sell them back in RAM, which is intuitive as well. Next, another important point we can make out of this graph is, if we look at all the bars and the last bar, the discrepancy between instance listed and the ECUs listed in the case of 25 to 36 is huge, whereas others, it's not that much. We have looked at our data and we have what we have found is that it's because of a single listing where user has listed a small number of instances which are huge in terms of capacity. As such, that listing itself has changed the market volume. Hence, a single user can change the market volume. And second point here is that this indicates buyer's remorse, as 25 to 36 months is huge reservation term left. Hence, next, coming on to how term duration affects listing price of VM type. Here we choose C4.lodge data from US East 1. As you can see here, on the x-axis you have duration, on the y-axis you have effective price. We list both minimum price as well as average price, as in case of RAM, it fulfills a request starting with minimum priced arrays that match users' request. Hence, minimum price is relevant here. And to make the point here, the average listing price decreases linearly with the duration. And another point that we can make here is that in the case of 1 to 6 months, the average price is above 1 year reservation, which indicates that 1 to 6 months user listed it higher than its valuation. Whereas in the case of 25 to 36, the price is lower than 3 years, indicating that users are value them lower than marketplace so that they can sell it. Next, moving on, let's look at how supply and demand are relatable in reserved instance marketplace. On the x-axis, we have regions. On the y-axis, you have average time on the market, where we take all the listings and see how much time they are in the marketplace before they are off the market. Here, we list the regions in descending order of their popularity. As you can see here, US East 1 and US West 2 are the largest regions in terms of market volume, and they have one of the highest average time on the market as well, compared to one of the smallest regions like SA East 1 and AP Southeast 1. This does indicate one thing, that demand is less relative to supply in these larger markets. Applying similar analysis on individual VM types for popular region US East 1 produces this graph where we have instant type on x-axis. Similarly, the instant types are in the descending order of their popularity, and on the y-axis you have average time on the market, days. Here also we can see similar pattern where popular VM types, that is C4.lodge, C5.lodge, have longest average time on the market, reinforcing our point from the previous graph that demand is less relative to supply in largest regions as well as for the popular VM types as well. Finally, we compare reserved instance marketplace to spot and on demand. First, let's see how the reserved instances from AWS compared to reserved variable and short-term third-party listings from reserved instance marketplace. Reserved, the label indicates AWS offerings, RAM indicates third-party offerings. As you can see here, reserved 1 year and short-term and third-party listings with less than 1 year, the price is very similar. And also reserved of 3 years and variable listings with greater than 1 year term duration, the price is similar. This does indicate one point, that users neither make money nor lose any money on average in reserved instance marketplace. This applies to both buyers and sellers as well. Another important point here is that third-party listings with greater than 1 year term duration and spot, the prices are very similar. This does indicate that if one were to strategically use reserved instance marketplace, they can get reserved instances for the price of spot, and they can use it for some time, and then they can sell it back in reserved instance marketplace, as it doesn't have any condition about reselling back. To conclude, we provided a first look at Amazon's reserved instance marketplace, where we analyzed reserved instance data from September 2018 to May 2020 to reveal key market characteristics, and we have publicly released our dataset at UMass Trace Repository. In terms of future work, We envision more in-depth analysis, for example, how exactly supply and demand vary, and then term duration influences, etc. And also to develop strategies to effectively use RAM data to mitigate both demand risk as well as optimizing long-term cloud costs. Thank you. If you have any questions, please email to this email ID.